He thought he knew the man sitting behind the wheel. For months, Joe Rogan had ridden in this car, making small talk, cracking jokes, and handing out generous tips. But on this night, something felt different. The driver's eyes looked tired more than usual. His clothes, though clean, seemed worn like they had seen too many long nights. And then there was that moment, just a flicker of hesitation, when Joe asked, "So, you heading home after this?" The man hesitated, forced a smile, and then, almost too quietly to hear, he said, "I don't really have a home." Joe Rogan sat back. His mind raced. Was this a joke? But one look at the man's face told him everything. This wasn't a joke, this was real. And what Joe did next would change everything. Joe Rogan wasn't the kind of guy to just let something like this slide. He studied the man in the driver's seat. His name was Mike, late 40s, clean-shaven, always polite, always on time. But now Joe was seeing him in a completely different way. No home? That didn't make sense. Joe had met all kinds of people in his life. Fighters, comedians, billionaires, conspiracy theorists, you name it. But something about this hit different. He leaned forward. "Wait, what do you mean? You don't have a home?" Mike exhaled, gripping the steering wheel like it was the only thing holding him together. "I sleep in my car, man." Joe blinked. His car, the same one they were sitting in. Mike nodded, as if reading his mind. "Yeah, it's not as bad as it sounds. I shower at the gym, keep my clothes in the trunk, work as much as I can. It's just rough sometimes, you know." Joe didn't know what to say. Here was a man, driving him around, making sure he got to his gigs, his podcast, his life, while secretly dealing with something like this. Joe felt a knot in his stomach. This wasn't just some random story. This was personal. And right then and there, Joe made a decision. Something had to be done. Joe Rogan wasn't the type to just hear something like this and move on. He sat there in silence for a moment, thinking. Then, casually, he asked, "How long you been doing this?" Mike shrugged. "A little over a year." "A year? A whole year of sleeping in parking lots, dodging security guards, hoping no one knocked on his window in the middle of the night." Joe couldn't wrap his head around it. "Man, but why? I mean, you work hard. You're always grinding. How'd it get to this?" Mike sighed. "Divorce, lost my place. Money got tight. Just didn't have anywhere to go." Joe had heard stories like this before. But this time, it wasn't some distant tragedy. This was the guy who had been driving him around for months. A guy who, on the surface, seemed like he had it all together. And that's when Joe got an idea. "Hey, you got any time off coming up?" Mike raised an eyebrow. Not really. I take as many rides as I can." Joe smirked. "All right, what if I book you for the next few days, pay you up front, good rate, no driving required?" Mike narrowed his eyes, confused. "Wait, what?" Joe nodded. "Yeah, you'll see. Just take a couple days off." "My treat." Mike hesitated. "I don't get it. What's the catch?" Joe laughed. "No catch, man, just trust me." Mike didn't know what was happening, but something told him this was about to change everything. Mike didn't know what to expect. He had been driving Joe Rogan for months, but this was different. This wasn't just another ride. When he pulled up to the address Joe had texted him, his jaw nearly dropped. It wasn't a studio, it wasn't a hotel, it was a fully furnished apartment. Mike stepped out of the car, looking around, confused. "I think I got the wrong place." Joe grinned. "Nah, you're in the right spot." He tossed Mike a set of keys. Mike caught them, staring at Joe like he had lost his mind. "Wait, what's this?" Joe crossed his arms. "Your place, at least for the next 6 months. Rent's covered. No more sleeping in the car." Mike just stood there, gripping the keys like they might disappear. He blinked. His throat felt tight. "Joe, man, I can't." Joe cut him off. "You can. You will. Look, you didn't ask for this, I get it. But I've got money, and if I can help someone who's been helping me, why wouldn't I?" Mike turned away for a second, rubbing his face. His hands were shaking. Joe clapped a hand on his shoulder. "Come on, let's check it out." They stepped inside. The place was simple, but it felt like a mansion to Mike. A soft couch, a bed with actual sheets, A fridge stocked with food. He ran his fingers over the counter, still in shock. I don't know what to say. Joe smirked. Then don't say anything. Just get some real sleep tonight, man. Mike sat on the couch, running a hand over his face. For the first time in a long time, he didn't have to worry about where he was going to park, if security would knock on his window, if he'd wake up with a stiff neck. For the first time in a long time, he felt human again. That night, Mike lay in a real bed, staring at the ceiling. His body ached, not from exhaustion, but from the strange feeling of comfort. Soft sheets, a pillow that actually supported his head. For the first time in over a year, he wasn't sleeping with one eye open, waiting for a knock on his window, but something didn't sit right. This was too much, too generous, too unreal. Why would Joe Rogan, a guy with a million things on his plate, go out of his way to do this? Mike sat up. His mind raced. Maybe this was some kind of experiment, a podcast bit. Maybe Joe was testing him, seeing how he'd react. He pulled out his phone and scrolled through his messages. He thought about texting Joe, asking, "Why me? What's the catch?" But then, another thought hit him. Joe wasn't the only one who had helped him. For years, people had tipped him, smiled at him, asked how his night was going. Small things, things he had never paid much attention to, until now. He realized something. People had cared all along. Maybe he just never let himself believe it. And now, sitting in a warm apartment with a stocked fridge, he faced the hardest question of all. What was he going to do with this second chance? Mike woke up the next morning, feeling different, rested, clear-headed. For the first time in years, he wasn't waking up in a cramped driver's seat with a stiff neck and foggy windows. He made himself a cup of coffee, real coffee, not gas station instant packs. As he sat at the small kitchen table, he thought about everything that had happened. Joe Rogan didn't have to do this. He could have given Mike a big tip and called it a night. But instead, he changed everything. Mike picked up his phone and hesitated. He had a choice. He could keep grinding, driving night after night, living just to survive. Or, he could do something different. A message popped up from Joe. "Joe, hope you slept good. Let's grab lunch later." Mike stared at the screen. A simple text. Nothing dramatic. No grand speech about changing lives. Because that's the thing about real kindness. It doesn't ask for credit. It just is. Mike took a deep breath, then started typing. "Mike, yeah man, thanks again. I owe you one." Joe, "Nah, just pay it forward someday." Mike smiled. Maybe he would. Maybe that was the whole point. That's the kind of thing you don't hear about every day. A guy who had every reason to look the other way, chose to step in and change someone's life instead. Now, here's the real question. What would you have done? If you found out someone you saw every day, someone who always seemed fine, was secretly struggling like this, would you step in? Would you help? Drop your thoughts in the comments. And hey, if this story hit you in the heart, share it with someone. Maybe they need to hear it today. And if you don't want to miss more stories like this, well, you know what to do.